702.
World of Work.
Have you ever received an offer, but you didn't really want to take it, and you were hoping that your company gives a counter offer and they beat that offer that you have gotten to get you to stay? We're discussing how to negotiate counter offers, because receiving a job offer is always an exciting milestone, right? But then what happens when the offer doesn't quite meet your expectations? Or maybe you're not ready to leave the company, right? Whether it's the salary, the benefits, or the working conditions, it's perfectly acceptable to enter a respectful negotiation. You know, that's where a counter offer comes in. With the right approach, if you've done your research, you're confident enough, as a job seeker, you can negotiate the terms that better reflect their skills and the value without really burning the bridges. I mean, some people just receive an offer and then they take it to their managers and say, hey, this is the offer I've got, because you're trying to threaten them that you leave. And then they're like, okay, good luck. But actually, you didn't really want that job. So you've got to be very strategic about how you negotiate counter offers. Boniwe Dunster is an HR specialist who's going to guide us through how we can do that. Boniwe, welcome back to the show. Good morning.
Thank you, Clement, and thank you for having me today.
Yeah, and I want to hear from you as well. If you've ever had to negotiate a counter offer, how did that turn out for you? How did you navigate that? Or maybe you can share with us what mistakes you've made around offers and counter offers. You can call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Boniwe, let's start with just maybe for context. What exactly is a counter offer in the context of employment?
Sure. So a counter offer is an offer that one often receives from their employer, and this happens at the time when they resign or they communicate their intention to resign. The intention of the employer in this instance is to get the employee to reverse their decision or change their mind about leaving, right? So in that instance, the employer would request probably to see the offer that you're talking about, and they would actually want to match that or probably give you over and above what you are receiving so that they can retain you as talent within the organization. It's purely the employer saying, I can give you better than what you are moving for. And that's when they start getting into negotiating in terms of what does it mean around my role, around the money, around the scope and the complexity of my job. So sometimes it's not only a counter offer from a financial point of view, but it could be because of a promotion or, a learning opportunity that they might have overlooked you for. And those are some of the things that goes into counter offers. But the intention is to retain the employee within the organization and that they don't leave.
Okay. So what's the first step then to do? So if I receive an offer, but it doesn't really meet my expectations, what is the best thing to do? Do I respond right away? And I do think sometimes, Boniwe, it's not so much that the offer doesn't meet your expectation. Maybe the offer ticks the boxes, but you're just not sure that this is the right time to leave this place now. So what's the best way to respond when you receive an offer that may be tempting?
I think what's important is for one to actually get to review the offer in totality, right? Including benefits and just not from a numbers perspective. Because often what we do when we look at an offer, we look what is my total cost to company and then what is it that I'm going to net at the end of the day, because the intention is for us to move for better financial rewards. So if it's the total cost to company, you also get to look at their benefits, their leave days, their flexible working hours and all of that. And also, you need to ask yourself, with this offer compared to where I am right now, does it respond to my career goals or my career aspirations, right? Because there's more to one resigning from one company to the other rather than just money. But it could be because you have been looking for opportunities to get promoted or being in an environment that is actually much bigger, that is a multinational company that provides you more scope within the skills that you have. So you need to look at those things in totality and not just at the money. And also, when you're asking the question around, does it meet your expectations, then the question becomes, what are your career goals and aspirations in the short to medium term? Because long term can sometimes just, be a facade. Then you're saying, does it give me the complexity that I want? Does it move me closer to getting to management level or to executive level? Or does it move it closer to me working in a multinational company that will actually grant me opportunities to move from one country to the other as part of talent mobility. So you need to answer that in totality, because you can have the money, but if you're frustrated and the new opportunity does not address your career aspirations, then that offer also doesn't serve a purpose, because you'll get into that space within 3 to 6 months. You are bored, looking for something else, because you did not cater for your own, personal satisfaction in terms of your career, but only looking at the financial benefits.
Okay, but sometimes you do want more time to negotiate that counter offer. So what do you tell the company that's given you an offer? Because they're not naive. They probably know that you are delaying in signing because you're probably still trying to negotiate a counter offer. And for some reasons, companies hate it when you do that, when they make you an offer and you're busy negotiating a counter offer. So what reasons then do you give to that company that's made you an offer?
I think, Clement, in all fairness, which is what we need to practice, and I also need to practice where I am, we also need to be fair to candidates. We often make a mistake, or maybe because of pressure of giving candidates offers maybe on the 30th or the 31st, right, for them to make a decision. And under those circumstances, they are rushed. They don't have enough time to actually, engage with the offer, and for them to engage whoever that they trust, to help them make an informed, decision. So in all fairness, we need to provide people with at least a week, at bare minimum 3 days for them to consider. But if you're in that process, you can just say, I'm still busy going through the offer. I'm actually consulting, with my advisors or with my labor consultant to make sure that the terms and conditions of this offer is valid. Can you please allow me 2 days or 3 days? By when, or when is the latest that I can actually then revert to you? And also, it's fair, because in all honesty, you get an offer. In certain instances, some companies have offers that are 18 pages, right? And we know that we skim to certain headings, that are more important or beneficial to us. But in certain instances, you want somebody to read that contract with you to make sure that you really understand. Companies also use different terminologies, and some companies are local, some are international, and therefore we need to actually then consider that. But we know that you're also buying time for you. Maybe you're also waiting for other offers as well, because that's what happens. You find that somebody has been aggressive in the market in terms of looking for new opportunities, then they would be going, to 3 interviews all at the same time. And sometimes you just want to buy yourself enough time so that the second or third employer might come back to you with something positive, especially if you have been through maybe the interviews, the assessments, the psychometrics, and background checks. So that all yields to a positive direction. But in all fairness, 3 to 5 days is actually fair for somebody to, to review their offer and just say that I'm looking at it, I'm trying to weigh my options, and please allow me time. And then if they don't, I often say it's actually unfair, where we have taken so much time to get back to you, but we can't allow you 2 or 3 days to take time to make a decision.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to some WhatsApps on 072 702 1702. Your calls on 011 883 0702.
Hey, morning, Clement. Now, when you have been nagging your employer to give you an increase for a while, and then you look for a job, and then the job gives you a higher paying salary, and then that's when your current employer wants to give you an increase, I don't suggest you take it, because they could have done that a long time ago. So on their part, it's just so professional in some way, yeah? Because they could have given you an increase a long time ago, you'd not have looked for another job, and so on and so on. So if they're going to counter do it, that means they don't see the value in you that much. Cooks from tablet.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this argument before, Boniwe, that but if the company really cared about you, they would have voluntarily given you, all these benefits that you've always wanted, as opposed to wait for another company to poach you or to see your value. Should we be that emotional like that with these negotiations?
Not entirely, Clement, right? And I'm saying that because in certain instances, as an employee, you also don't get to advocate for your recognition enough. And then you also rely on your manager or your super seniors of positioning your needs for recognition or for progression within the company. So you will actually then communicate that to your line manager. And the question is like, are they doing a good job or are they not doing a good job in, in doing that? In certain instances, some organizations, they are so small or they are so behind that they don't have systems and processes in place, to help them, nudge them in the right, direction at the right intervals of having to review, their recognition programs. And recognition can come in a form of a promotion, in terms of ad hoc, or out of cycle increases, or bursaries, and, and all of those. So some companies do not have, but if you have worked for multinational companies, you would know that those things are there, and they've got systems where as an individual, you put your developmental plans in there, you actually indicate, your short-term and your medium-term plans. You actually then have career conversations with your line managers that are also documented on a particular system that helps the company to make decisions. But we're also working for companies that do not have the know-how or those systems as well. You can actually make that decision to say they have overlooked me if you have been communicating, if you have been asking for recognition, or if you've been working so hard and your work is so visible and you're advocating for your work and nobody is actually hearing you. Then at that point you can say, you know what, I've communicated my aspirations, my financial needs. I've requested to be recognized for certain things that I have put in place over the years, and nobody then, has actually took time to understand and to actually address my needs. Then in that instance, you can say, you know what, I don't think I can because I've communicated this to you. And this is what we often term as delayed recognition. People see how good you are at your job, but sometimes we can be so naive as line managers to say, so-and-so will never leave. Where else can they go, And when that opportunity comes, it's a shock. And then when you resign, then they give you that delayed recognition. And because it's been delayed and because you've been nagging for it, you're like, but why now, Because they didn't believe that you could. And therefore, in that instance, you can have that emotional reaction. But unfortunately, it won't be applicable to every situation, depending on the maturity of the HR processes within the organization.
Yeah, sure. So what happens if the employer rejects the counter offer? Should the candidate walk away or you stay? Because I don't know, will they make your life difficult if it's a childish manager or employer,
If you accept the counter offer or if you reject it.
So I'm saying if they say, no, we don't have money to counter offer you, sorry. So if you've said, okay, company B wants me to come work for them, but I want to negotiate a counter offer, they say, yeah, not really, we don't have money for that. And then what do you do? Is it better to just leave or stay if you really want to stay?
Yeah. So for me, I think counter-offer conversations are also better if the employer is initiating them, because then they show their intention and their interest in you as a talent. If as an employee you say, I've got offer from company B, can we negotiate? The employer can easily say, no, unfortunately, I don't have the money. Or maybe, they're also looking to actually getting a new skill. Probably in certain instances, you haven't been the greatest as well. So you can't go and look for an offer and use that as a bait for a counter offer with your current employer, because you don't know what their reaction is going to be. That's the thing, right? So you also need to be willing to say, they might say no, and then I'll still be, matured enough to accept it and then move over to company B. Some will say we don't even have the money to match that, or, if we had, we would be paying you that. But because of the performance of our organization, where we are, the size of the organization, we haven't been doing great, and therefore we can't accept counter offers. So I often say to people, don't resign with the intention of getting a counter offer, because it might not come.
Yeah.
And maybe you might be regarded as high talent, as a high performer in the organization. But these things, you're actually as good as yesterday. By the time that you resign or you communicate your intention to resign, the dynamics of the organization and the structure of the organization might have changed. You might also be reporting to a different manager. You might also be resigning at the point whereby the company is actually tightening, their financial taps, to manage, revenue well, because we know that most companies are, 60% of their operational cost is on headcount and salaries, and they might be trying to reduce that. So don't go there with the intention that you're going to get it, because some you will not get. Some organizations are just happy to say, as a line manager, I support you, I support your progress, I'm happy you have this, I wish you all the best. And it's also okay, you can't force an employer to want to counter offer when they're not in a position to.
True. Okay, here's a tricky one though. Someone is asking, what happens if they ask you to make a verbal commitment on the spot? So the company that's made you an offer calls you on Teams and says, you've got to express whether or not you accept this offer or not right now, because they're trying to avoid that situation where you're going back now to negotiate a counter offer. Is that allowed? And like, what do we do in that instance?
I don't think people can do that, because we are always allowed to change our mind. You can't hold people ransom. And also, you can even say, yes, I give you my verbal commitment. I can come and say, but I'm not accepting the offer. You're not going to hold me to anything. You're not going to take me through any dispute resolution body to try to hold me to that. Yes. Alternatively, I can say yes, and then I can join. And at the end of my first month, I can resign, because the decision to resign is a unilateral one. And then what happens? So it's just maybe a scare tactic more than anything else, but nothing that really will hold water,
okay,
in any dispute resolution body or at any, court of law.
All right, got it. Boniwe Dunster, thank you so much always for your insights. She's an HR specialist. It's just after 11:30.